Oh, we have a jam-packed show here this week. First, we are joined by the legendary Rick Clunn with his Clunn-Clusion. Then it's Jake Latendresse, Bassmaster videographer with Jake's Take. And then we're even joined by Tommy Wood. All of them join me this week on...
I'm Bob Cobb for the Bassmaster. Welcome to Mercer.
You did it. You really did it. You showed up again, and I thank you for that. Let's get into this. Welcome one, welcome all. Friends, family, freeloaders, fishing freaks, and of course you, my humpers. Happy hump day to all of you, and welcome into the Awkwardly Honest Fishing Podcast that goes by my last name, which is Mercer. This is the 226th edition of the Mercer Podcast, and I hope wherever you're watching or listening from that life is treating you well. A very, very busy show here this week. Well, in good reason, because it's a very busy week in the sport of fishing. As you watch this, God willing, I'm on my way to La Crosse, Wisconsin for stop 9 of the 2025 Bassmaster Elite Series, the final stop. And the final event, the final few events, to be honest, are always bittersweet for me. I mean, I love them because there's pressure on kind of everyone, but I hate them because there's going to be some anglers relegated from the Elite Series that will not re-qualify for 2026, and that's always hard to see. So it's kind of a tough week that way. And as I said, everyone's got pressure. Whether you're trying to re-qualify for the Elite Series, whether you're trying to qualify for the Bassmaster Classic, whether you're trying to win Rookie of the Year, whether you're trying to win Angler of the Year, everybody has pressure on them this week. And it's going to be fun. I mean, it's been, first of all, here's a guy who doesn't have pressure about the Bassmaster Classic. Laker Howell, congratulations, winning the Open. Way to go. An awesome victory. Weird for me because, I mean, Laker was a little kid who sat in the front row of every weigh-in, and now he's going to be fishing the Bassmaster Classic. And he takes said pressure that he doesn't have on him anymore because he knows he's fishing the Classic and puts it firmly on his father, Randy Howell's shoulders to qualify for the Bassmaster Classic and fish with him in Knoxville in 2026. So congratulations, Laker, an incredible victory. But with La Crosse in mind, our Angler of the Year battle is something that, I mean, I feel like we stole the writers from the scripts, the NFL script writers. We must have stolen them. Like how we have somebody trying to go back to back. It's only ever happened 3 other times. Chris Johnston is trying to do that. But the guy who is in a 2-way tie with him is a young angling phenom that, for all intents and purposes, hot off his second Elite Series win in his second season. But for all intents and purposes, if it wasn't for a timing miscue in 2024, he would be your reigning Angler of the Year. He won it last year, but because of that violation, he did not win it. So Trey McKinney is trying to right a wrong that, happened to him. And again, he admitted that it was his fault. He's not complaining, but it's just like the story on top of the stories on top of the stories are just very, very cool. And I can't wait to watch it go down. And weirdly enough, I don't have an idea. I mean, on paper, you're like, okay, Chris Johnston is the defending champion. He finished second the last time we were here. But it's La Crosse. Anything can happen. Like, this fishery is just amazing. Guys can get locked out. There's just so many things at play. It's one of my favorite venues we go to. Visually, it's one of the coolest. I mean, if you like fish blowing up on frogs, you're going to like La Crosse, Wisconsin this week. It's always one of the most fun live events that we cover. So we'll find out who's going to win Angler of the Year. At the end of this, we'll find out who our Rookie of the Year is. We'll find out who our Classic qualifiers are. We'll find out who's re-qualified for the... All of this will be decided this week in La Crosse, Wisconsin. And I hope you're there. If you're there, make sure you say hello. It'll also be the final week of Mercer in the Morning. That's right. I have fun with you guys each and every morning, about an hour before Elite Series takeoff time. So around 6 a.m., I guess, Central Time, because we're whatever, an hour before takeoff. So I think it'll be 7 a.m. Eastern. You'll see Mercer in the morning. 8 a.m. Eastern, you'll see takeoff. Something like that. Everything I say is officially unofficial, which is the name of another podcast that I host that just came out earlier this week, where we talk about a Champions Tour, a Legends Tour, a Senior Tour, and we get different anglers' opinions. So make sure you check out that episode of Officially Unofficial. And I got to stop talking because we got a lot of guests here this week. We're going to kick things off with a great conversation with Rick Clunn and his Clunn-Clusion. He was busy competing in the Open, so he didn't get a lot of chance to watch what happened at St. Clair. But this week, he's going to talk about our top 2 in Angler of the Year and give his thoughts on that. So very, very cool. Then we're going to check in with Tommy Wood and find out where in the world Tommy Wood is. And then we're going to finish things off with Jake's take. And, this one gets a little squirrely. And I'll be honest, I've given Jake kind of a hard time. Said, you used to really bring it on these Jake's take. Tell us some meat. And you've kind of been a little soft. He's not soft this time around. You do not want to miss this at all. I can keep talking, but really, you didn't tune in here for me. You tuned in for these guests, and let's kick it off right now with Rick Clunn. Rick Clunn, there's a lot of things I really appreciate about you, but one of those things is, we did this thing, Clunn-Clusion, where you were going to do a review after each event. And I get it. You're busy competing in the Opens. And a lot of other dudes, lesser men, would just go watch some highlight clips and do a Clunn-Clusion. But you said, I didn't watch it, so I don't really feel comfortable talking about it. And I freaking appreciate that about you.
No, yeah, I was driving on the way up there, and I would kind of turn it on every once in a while to kind of get an idea of just how it's going. Of course, St. Clair, it's pretty obvious what happens up there usually. It's pretty predictable. But at the same time, there's always interesting things that come out of it, and it didn't surprise me how it was won or where it was won. Didn't surprise me who won it, but there was a few things that did surprise me. I know he was fishing in a huge area of a lot of other boats. And that's, again, all these new anglers using electronics, even within that group, and there's a bunch of them doing it, there's still people that are taking it to another level. And he kind of showed that himself there.
Yeah. To go to a body of water that traditionally people win very close. You know what I mean? You win by ounces. He won by 5 pounds, and he did it.
Exactly. That's huge.
Looking at people.
Yeah.
It was wild. Obviously, you were fishing the Open up on Leech, so congrats to Laker Howell. Such an awesome win, but also weird for me, and I'm sure for you. But I like Laker Howell. Laker and Oakley would sit. Like there's anglers' kids who come and they watch their dad weigh in and then they disappear. But they would literally sit in the front row for every weigh-in from start to finish, watch every angler. And now Laker's 6'5" and going to the Bassmaster Classic.
Robin, forgive me for saying this, but I can remember when we all shared the campgrounds pretty much for their whole life. I'm not sure about this, but I think they were conceived in the campground, probably Laker and them. So, and I watched them get raised, and it really was a beautiful experience just to watch that family start. And and now look, like you said, Laker's a giant of a kid and a giant of a person as well.
Yeah, it was a very cool victory. I obviously wasn't there, just saw it online, but congrats to Laker Howell, and I'll see you in Knoxville in just a few months' time.
That's true. And it was a neat tournament. I was doing the same thing again, doing the same thing as the winner, but I wasn't in the bigger fish. We were both throwing frogs, and I was throwing a frog, but we were in different areas, and this area had the better quality. And I caught 8 or 9 keepers a day. I didn't weigh in the final day because I didn't have enough to make any difference. So, and it was really, I was kind of surprised. I thought he was fishing the smallmouth pattern. And the last day was where they caught those smallmouth and leech in the lower south part of Leech. The wind was just brutal. And that really hurt a lot of them. And Laker was staying up in the rice fields, which is such a neat part of that lake, is these rice fields that the native people still harvest the rice the old-fashioned way. We go out there in boats and pull the rice over in and shake it off, and they harvest the rice. That was part of the neat thing for me in that tournament, was just being in a lake where there's rice growing that they get harvested in the lake.
Yeah, it's a very cool process. One of the most shocking things for me is you maybe made one of the greatest wild rice soup posts. Like, I don't know a lot of wild rice soup posts, but that was an incredible wild rice soup post that you made this week.
It was amazing. It was better than it looked, actually. Yeah, it was amazing.
Can you give me kind of the Reader's Digest version of what you were trying to explain in that post for those that didn't see it? Because I think it was very powerful.
Well, really, I'm at a stage when I can afford to say stuff like that in my career, where I can really start to appreciate things way beyond results and appreciate everything that's happening out there. My phone ring on my phone is another example of that. My phone ring on my phone is loons making their sound. And I swear every day I thought I was getting dozens of phone calls from natural loons that were out there making their loon. They were just had their young. You could see some of their nests back in the rice areas. And then, like I said, and also fishing the way I was fishing a frog. I was fishing this Livingston frog. It's got the DBS, which makes a little frog sound when it's not moving.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of fun to fish that way. I didn't think I would, and this is again a negative. Going into the tournament, I knew the smallmouths were going to dominate, but I still knew, hey, this is going to be fun. I'm going to go up there and fish for the largemouth. I just didn't have enough confidence that they could win this tournament, and Laker proved they could. But it was just so many things going on. It was the weather up there wasn't hot. It was get down almost in the mid 50s at night sometime. Some of the days were like 70s and 80s. And in the past, you don't know, if you're not doing good in the tournament especially, that's what catches you emotionally and mentally. And even though I knew I wasn't doing well, I was enjoying the way I was fishing. I was enjoying this lake I'd never seen before, and enjoying the fact that's one of the great side effects of what we do being tournament anglers. We fish places we would never fish if we hadn't been fishing tournaments. And then staying in the Native American campground where I was staying and camped out. Everything about it, I was just trying to capture the beauty of a tournament besides what most of us look at, and that's the leaderboard at the end.
Yeah, it was very well written. So thank you for that. And if you guys haven't seen it, make sure you check it out. I'm sure it's on your Facebook. I know it's on your Instagram, but I'm sure it's on Facebook as well. So check it out. It is one of the greatest wild rice soup posts I've ever, simply the greatest wild rice soup post I've ever seen. So we are going to have a conclusion though, but I threw a different topic at you because we have a two-way tie for Angler of the Year with one. I mean, it's going to be one of the most pure, natural, and mathematically, those two could not catch him, and somebody could come up from behind Kyoya or secure it still. Right. I mean, but realistically, you got to feel Trey or Chris are going to catch him, but we have a two-way tie. So it's going to be, I mean, realistically, one of them can finish second place in this tournament and still not win Angler of the Year if the other one wins.
It's kind of it's kind of a neat thing for me because, and I want to, before we get into this, I want to make sure people understand what I say here and what my opinion is on this has nothing to do. It's simply about what I've observed from these anglers on the water.
Yeah.
I'll never say, I know nothing about them off the water. And of course, if you look at social media and all that, then you get a lot of other people's opinions off the water about these two anglers. I have nothing about that. I will not talk about that. I do have, from my observations of them on the water, I'm impressed with both of them. And when Chris Johnston and Corey came on the circuit in 2019, that's who I beat. When I won the St. John's tournament, it was Chris Johnston. He led it for 3 early days, and I caught him with that giant bag of almost 35 pounds on the last day. And I just, so my observation of both of them, Chris and Corey, and it's the way I really try to judge. I judge people. I don't like to judge people because you hear all kinds of things, from social people and outside of the tournaments. No, I don't care. And some of it may be true, but I don't care. I'm strictly going to try to observe them in my own experience, and that's in the tournaments. And both Chris and Corey, they had performed at a high level from very day one, and they continue to. Now, Trey, I don't have as much time observing, and certainly I don't observe. I only get to observe him on the water, and I'm glad I had, because I heard, like we do, unfortunately, I hear too many things about a person before you ever even get to see them or experience them yourself. But every time I've experienced him, from y'all's reports on the water, and now from he's got a smaller sample size than the Johnsons do, but still he performs at a very, very high level. And that's the number one thing I try to judge him by. And also watching them now, like we do on the Bassmaster coverage, and you doing it, talking with them on stage, is, they're very, when it comes to angling, both of them are at the highest level intelligence-wise. You hear in other sports about, when you look at a player, his basically in the game intelligence, his on the court intelligence. He sees the whole game, and both of them do. They do. I mean, in fact, Trey has really impressed me a lot when he talks on camera. And that's a hard thing to do. Most of us look pretty stupid on camera, but he really, his conversation is incredibly at a high level. And then he executes. Chris, I had now since 2019, we're in 2025, 6 years of watching him perform. I haven't heard him talk as much on camera.
Yeah.
But obviously his performance is proof enough for me that he knows what he's doing. And not only what he's doing, he knows how to perform at the highest level. And right now, they're both doing that. I wouldn't, when I want to try to pick a winner, you'd say, okay, who's going to be favored at this last one on the lacrosse is kind of it's unlike if you were just fishing St. Lawrence, or some place where it's pure smallmouth, where you kind of lean toward the Johnsons, even though Trey did it at St. Clair, which is smallmouth. So he can handle, he's obviously proved he can do it. That lacrosse is a mixture. And it's harder to predict there what combination of fish is going to win the tournament, largemouth versus smallmouth. So and that's where I think you could be right on somebody coming in from back of them and doing it, because lacrosse is just a strange creature. It's and the way you have to fish it doesn't seem to ever be the same.
Yeah, I mean, Chris finished second the last time we were there, but it is not it's weird. It's like the Sabine, where the Sabine, we've had champions. It's not like the Sabine at all, because it is, I mean, it's one of the best largemouth fisheries we go to. So I I'm sure there's people lacrosse saying, "What did you compare us to? What?" But what I mean by his finishes, there's you look at Christie has won on the Sabine, but he's also been in the 90s. Hackney's won on the Sabine. He's also been in the 90s. Like up until the last time we were there, kind of the only guy who's won at Sabine that's been impervious to a bad one was Brock Mosley, but he didn't do as well this last time we were there. Right. But lacrosse kind of feels like that. Where is that because it's a river, do you think?
It is, and I think it's the fact that a lot of largemouth, I don't know. It's a tough one to call. I don't even want to try to call it because, like you say, it's hard to repeat doing the same thing in the same areas. And of course, the level there can be different. I know they've had a lot of rain, and you could have all kinds of water level changes going on. I would really be curious. Just one thing I kept thinking about with Chris and Trey was I would love to know how many days each one of those guys have been on the water for the last 3 years fishing. For the last 3 years. Because that's one thing I'm starting to see, especially with the young anglers, and I suspect it's true with Chris, Johnston, and Corey, that you'd be shocked how many days they're spending on the water. And I've always been of the opinion that that's who wins. It's the person who's spending more days on the water year after year. And I could be wrong. Maybe they don't fish a lot in between the tournaments. There was two anomalies that I never could understand or figure out in my years on the circuit. It was Kevin Van Dam and Skeet Reese. They spent less time on the water than any of the anglers out there, pretty much. And that's kind of an exaggeration, but they were not spending. I spent tons when I was at my peak, I was guiding in between tournaments. I'm spending 250 to 300 days a year on the water when I knew I was at my best. I never could figure it. Always would piss me off how Kevin and Skeet could beat me. And I knew they were spending less time they weren't spending a third of the time on the water. So, but I still believe that's one of the biggest powers I see in a lot of these young anglers. This kid here that's fishing the opens, Wyatt Marlar, that did well at Leech Lake. He spends probably 300 days a year on the water, almost. And I think Trey, and I'm guessing here, I heard rumors, and I'm already breaking my rule. I don't like to respond from rumors. I like to respond from my own observations. That he spends a ton of time in his young life on the water. And that's so important. And so if I had to pick a winner, I would say in the last 3 years, find out who spent the most time on the water and choose him.
Yeah.
And this is just off the wall dart throwing. So,
yeah. Trey spent a ton of time doing Great Lakes smallmouth stuff before St. Clair. I asked him a week ago, I said, if you had to put a percentage of your life, how much percentage of your life is focused? Like if you take your whole life as a whole, what percentage of it is focused on catching a bass? And he said, minimum 80%. So, that means sleeping, everything fits into that 20. So and Chris has been always like, the thing about Chris is even when he's back here, like he's fishing tournaments nonstop. If he's on if he's got his kids are on the water with him. Like it is being on the water is the part of the sport that, I think it's the part of everything, isn't it? Like, whether you're trying to catch a bass or you're selling cheeseburgers, the person who works the hardest generally wins.
No, you can study any sport, and I love to study all sports to just understand how the best of the best achieve that over a lot of other very good competition. And it's so much how much time they spend invested into understanding what it takes to win. And not just what it takes to do well, not what it takes to catch a limit, but what it takes to catch the right fish and to win. And so I see that in both of them. And of course, Chris was Angler of the Year last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So now he has a chance to do it 2 times in a row. So is that going to work in his favor, or kind of, if you want to really nitpick the mental side of this, or is he going to be kind of, oh, I've already done that. I would do one versus Trey, who hasn't done that.
It's like a Disney novel. If you look at it, Chris Johnston has the opportunity to go back to back, and the only others that have ever gone back to back for Angler of the Years, Kevin Van Dam, Roland Martin, and Guido Hibden. Like, just say that group. And then you got Trey, who, let's be honest, without a late penalty and a call from his mother, he's your Angler of the Year last year. So he feels like he gave it away. Like, he felt like he takes total onus for it. He said, one thing I'll give the kid credit on, he said straight up when that happened, he said, my mom calling me had nothing to do with anything. He says, I was going to be more than 30 minutes late because I was tired and my mind slipped. And he said, now I focus and I make sure I don't miss those things. So he's got that motivation to be like, he could potentially be trying to go back to back, and he's freaking 20 years old. That's what, like, Chris makes sense. He's in his 30s. He's been doing this for a while. What Trey's doing does not make sense. He's been here 2 years. It'll be 2 years after this event, 2 full seasons. He's had 10 top 10s. This season, he's had 6 top 10s if you include the Classic. He's won 2 elites. He won Rookie of the Year. He was second in the Classic. Could have won Angler of the Year last year if it wasn't for a miscue, and now is in a 2-way. It's unfathomable what he's doing at such a young age. It's wild.
No, it is. But at the same time, this is a different generation than it was before. Because unlike Guido and unlike Roland and unlike even Kevin, Kevin, I don't know when I'd like to know when he was probably the earliest starter to start shooting for that go. But these kids now are shooting for that go, before they're even 20 years old. And they're so advanced with by the time they get in their early 20s. It blows me away. That did not exist back in my time. I didn't even start until I was 26. I don't know the exact age when Kevin started kind of getting to, he was 21. We started to recognize potential.
Yeah.
I remember in my mind the tournament that Kevin changed and became a superstar, or I knew he was going to be a superstar, was he drew Roland Martin. And I can't tell you the exact lake we were on. And he drew Roland, and it was back on draw, and he went with Roland that day, and he flipped a 7-pounder behind Roland. From that point on, he was a different person. All of a sudden, he got that touchdown pass or that home run that says, I can do this. I just caught a 7-pounder by who is considered the best. And so it's just little moments like that, I think, really changes anglers' mental side of how good they become and are believe in themselves. But we're looking at a different era with these anglers like Trey. And it's going to happen quicker and quicker. So it doesn't surprise me that that's happening, because they do their homework. They are spending what we talked about earlier, so much time on the water that they're learning faster and faster and faster. And so it's going to be interesting. With this deal with Chris and Trey, we really don't have a young versus the old, because Chris is not old.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a neat deal. Whoever wins is probably going to deserve it. Just looking at how they got there and who kind of finishes it up.
You've won Angler of the Year. You've felt every pressure there is to feel in the sport. Like, can you compare the pressure at the final event for Angler of the Year with the pressure of winning the Classic? is it even comparable, or is it just the exact same? It's pressure all the time.
No, I'm the wrong person because I never believed in the importance of Angler of the Year my whole career. It was never something I considered or even desired to do. And you got to remember why, because Angler of the Year didn't get anything back then.
Yeah.
It barely got even a pat on the head. And I knew in my career to make it, there was only one. Angler of the Year wasn't winning it. It's going to help, but it wasn't going to make it. Only one event was going to make it for you, and that was the Classic. And that's what I fished for. Now, that's changed now. And plus back then, Angler of the Year was not a reflection of who was winning the Angler of the Year. It was a reflection of you and all the help you could get. That's been cleaned up a little bit. Okay, nowadays, you still get more help than you did back then on Angler of the Year, but it's been cleaned up a lot, and so it's more a reflection of the actual angler. Angler of the Year in my day was not a reflection of the angler. It was a reflection of him and all the help he could get. And so I'm not a good one to ask that question to for the very answer I just gave you.
Yeah, no, it's a great answer. And I appreciate how you always give me your honest spin on things. I can't wait to watch this battle go down. To me, it's where there's no... Usually with Angler of the Year, it's like, well, they have 17 points, and if this happens, it's just a straight up heavyweight battle. We're going to watch two guys slug it out, and we're going to have an Angler of the Year. We got Rookie of the Year. Everything's going to be decided this week, but it'll be a fun tournament. I don't have normally I got a feeling like I'm like, oh, so-and-so. And on paper, everything says Chris because the river sets up well for him. But I don't think that on paper, Trey McKinney is nothing sets up well for Trey McKinney on paper, but repeatedly it sets up well for him everywhere we go. And with what he did in the last event, it's just pretty phenomenal. So either way, it's going to be cool.
Yeah, no. And like I said, it showed you that tournament, and I didn't get to watch much of it, but by him winning it as much as he did, fishing around so many other anglers that were doing the same thing but weren't doing the same thing, he is taking it to a higher level. And he seems like he's had that ability ever since on this circuit. Whatever level he needs to move it to, he takes it to a higher level. And so I'm like you, I wouldn't bet on either one, either the wrench on either one of them on this one.
Today's high-tech fishing world can be a real pain in the neck, especially if you're running the wrong mounts. Beat Down Outdoors, they bring the graph to you. And they support this podcast and care enough about you to make this a short ad read. Check out Beat Down Outdoors. Now back to the show.
No, it's gonna be an old school battle. So I look forward to it. You got some big things coming up, though. I mean, you might not have focused on Angler of the Year, but you're getting another Hall of Fame, Rick Clunn. The Texas Freshwater Fisheries Hall of Fame. That's a pretty strong one.
Yeah, it is, because I've said this before, but I don't understand Hall of Fames. I feel like we're part of the ancient pyramid builders that we somehow create these things that are going to guarantee us some type of immortality, which none of that really works. But the Texas Hall of Fame, I am really honored by it because it's one of the their Texas Parks and Wildlife I probably have more respect for than any of the conservation departments I've been exposed to in this whole country. And I've been to meetings in Phoenix where every one of them had their representatives there from every state, and you could see what they were doing and what they were doing to improve fishing. And the Texas Parks and Wildlife definitely has made more people want to fish because to catch one of those big F1 largemouth that now live pretty much everywhere from Texas to California. So and for them to induct me really means a lot because I really appreciate them as, and they've always believed in creating better fishing. And that's really what the conservation departments are supposed to do, is make more of us want to go fishing. And they've certainly done that.
They sure have. Do you get nervous for things like, will you be nervous the night of?
I'm not nervous. I know, I guess I'm embarrassed.
Uncomfortable?
Yeah, because I don't think I deserve it. I really don't. And that sounds, people are going to go, what? No, I can think of so many people that has unselfishly given so much to this sport that we love called fishing. And I know I did it indirectly, but I didn't do it directly. I was incredibly selfish. Nothing was going to get in my way to become the very best at what I was doing. And I did, and the only thing I'm going to say, I did it the right way. I never did it what I considered was the wrong way to go about winning. Winning the wrong way did not make any sense to me. And I didn't want, the worst thing in the world, I've only had one person, and this is truth, help me win a tournament in my whole career, information-wise, and it was my brother, Randy Fight.
Yeah.
And nobody else has ever helped me do that. And I'm proud to be able to say that. I either won or lost because of my own efforts. And you know, did it fairly, did it the right way, try to treat other anglers the right way. So that part, you know, I feel good about. But as far as being appointed as a Hall of Fame person, there's just so much more people that should be there than me.
Well, here's my conclusion. That's why you're getting in the Hall of Fame, Rick Clunn, because you think that. I think the world's full of enough people that are like, well, finally, it's my day. Hall of Fame could use people like you a little more often.
Yeah. And it's subjective. I mean, there's so many levels of it. So so I just hope I live up to what they expect of me.
Yeah. One last question, because you brought it up, being selfish. And I have my feelings on this, but do you think to be the best at anything, especially something like fishing, a competitive thing, you have to be selfish?
No matter what it is to be the best, you have to be.
Yeah.
In other words, you have to there's only X amount of fuel in your tank, only X amount of energy in your being. And to be the best at it, you've got to use 95% of it to achieve that. That's my opinion. And so what do you do? There's 5% left for those around you. Yeah. There's 5% left for those people that are the most important of all, and that's your family. And that, I mean, I know the sacrifices, you know, that they had to make. I know, you know, that they didn't understand what was happening. I mean, I'm doing something that nobody on the planet was doing. I'm having my daughter sit in my lap, and after I've been gone for 3 weeks at tournaments, and a TV show comes on, and I've told you this story, and I'll never forget it as long as I live. And the TV show was a fishing show, and I knew I was going to be on it. And she's sitting in my lap, and all of a sudden it comes up, and there I am on the show. And all of a sudden, she usually give me the cold shoulder the first couple of days, and she's just sitting there in my lap, just kind of, and all of a sudden she goes, Dad, look, there's Rick Clunn. And she's pointing at the TV. And I thought it was funny at first, and then it hit me, wait a minute. She's not sitting in Rick Clunn's lap. That's a different person. That's Rick Clunn, the bass fisherman. And I said, and it hit me, he's pretty damn good at what he does. But it's the lap she's sitting in, Dad, is he as good at what he does? And I knew the answer to that was no. And I had to become better. So no, I had to be selfish. I don't believe anybody can achieve the top in what they do without being selfish to a certain degree. Maybe not as completely, like I said, 95%, but close.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just natural. I don't care what it is. If you obsessed with being a comedian. You're chasing a. But I also think that people write off that, like for a Patrick Mahomes, they'll look at it and be like, well, yeah, but look what he's building, But ultimately, it comes at a cost. But I think that there's a lot of lessons to be taught through those costs, obviously. And just to recognize it proves that you're not that unselfish.
At some point, Patrick Mahomes or whoever you are, Rick Clunn, Roland, Kevin, at some point, though, I even brought that up at last year's Classic. My daughters were at the Classic. And the daughters that were sitting in my lap that night watching Rick Clunn on TV, I kind of apologized. I said, for being, quote, selfish. She said, Dad, yeah, but when you were home, you were all in. And that meant a lot to me. And that was true. After I watched that, I knew I'm not going to be able to give them the time I should. But when I'm at home, I'm going to do everything. I'm going to be at every practice, at basketball, cheerleading, didn't matter. I'm going to do every event, drama event they would have. I'm going to be there. I ran a Learjet at a tournament after a weigh-in at Grand Lake, Oklahoma, and flew. And then even though the tournament went over, and flew that night all the way to Montgomery, Texas, to walk her on the field for homecoming queen, and got back on the jet and flew back to fish the next day at Grand Lake in Oklahoma. So it did change the quality of time I spent. I did improve, I think. The quantity was just never going to be there.
Well, I appreciate the time that you give this show, Rick. And are you going to be able to watch this week's tournament?
Yes, I am. I'm looking forward to it, actually.
Yeah, so am I. So we will have a conclusion of your thoughts.
Yes, sir. I hope so.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to it, and I thank you for your time as always. And I look forward to your thoughts on our Angler of the Year. We'll find out who it is.
And I appreciate it. Always, I do enjoy this sincerely. So look forward to the next one.
Always good to have you. Thank you, Rick.
Where in the world is Tommy Wood? I'm somewhere in the middle of America in a Walmart car park. Just got the tire changed on the van. But tell you what, these broke down videos on the side of the road are getting old for me quick. I don't know about you guys, but hopefully the next one I'm not on the side of the road fixing something the next time, because I'm a bit over them. But good news is we just cashed a check at Leech Lake and double qualified for the EQ. So if I qualified twice, it takes away someone else's spot. So sorry to whoever that was. But managed to jump in the EQs and cash a check, which was absolutely crazy. So after day one, sitting in 27th place, huge winds come through the second day. Couldn't believe it. And on the way out, slung a blade on the prop and then hit some waves, and all these bushes on the Ultrex just fell apart, and all the frame, I've never seen anything like it. Just snapped and broke. But we still use the electric all day like that. So I just put it in the stow position, strapped this up, managed to catch 16 pounds, which moved me from 27th up to 12th place. So my best finish yet, and the boat was in the worst position it's ever been. So crazy times. I don't know what's going on, but everything seems to be breaking. But things are looking up. We're getting some momentum in the tournament scene at the moment. So smashed out the EQs. We're just about to driving home now. I've got 12 hours back to Alabama. And then we're jumping in the EQs in about a month. So looking good. About to get back on the roads, find somewhere to sleep and have a shower tonight. But we will see you hopefully at the EQs where stuff isn't going wrong and things are looking good for you boys. So thanks for having me on. Catch us next time.
Jake's Take is back in your life. But before Jake talks, I got to start with this. Because when you're friends with Jake, you have very few wins in life, really. Unless it's getting something out of the high cupboard, you don't have a lot of wins with my friend Jake. He's done everything. He's climbed ice walls. His children have accomplished more than me, and they're barely alive. They're totally alive, but you know what I mean. They haven't been alive a long time. But he didn't know how to copy and paste the actual email to make this podcast happen. He's the most technically sound person I know, and I feel very mighty right now, Jake.
The truth hurts. I'm hurt.
Damn, why? But see, once again, proving me, I am this close to greatness always. Like in story of my life, if I'd have been recording that would have been gold. Like you literally realized I walked you through the steps and you're like, see, it doesn't work. And I'm like, what does it say? And you said, and it all came together. It means nothing to anybody, but I'm gloating right now.
And I did call myself an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was when you really started laughing. When I said, okay, I'm an idiot.
No, I
You
started
burst into
laughing because
tears.
I watched your head have a battle. Like I watched literally in your eyes the moment that you were like, no, I know how to use my phone, Dave. This is totally not going to work. And then you were like, you didn't want it to work. For a split second, you're like, don't tell me I'm wrong. And then you realized.
But did you see how quickly I took
you took it like a man. You
accountability for myself. I've learned that with 3 kids at home alone with 3 kids. I've learned that if I don't take accountability for myself, then my kids won't take accountability for them.
See, once again, it turns into a life lesson. See, not a lot of wins with Jake. You're a much better human.
That's right. You got to twist it like an orange peel, man.
But I'm glad we're actually connecting. And you, dude, had honestly, what a great freaking 3. Like, I mean, it's cool when you're at an event and you're with the leader, you know, if you'd have been with Trey the whole way through, would have been cool. I mean, but him and Brandon Fiend have a really cool relationship, and I think it's awesome to see. But I think it's even cooler when sometimes you're with a bunch of other guys, and what a freaking threesome. Takumi, Easton, and Brandon Palaniuk. I mean, pretty freaking strong.
I hit the cameraman jackpot, aside from, like you said, not being in the boat with Trey. And I have never been in the boat with Trey, but I really want to get in the boat with Trey. And now it's going to be extremely difficult because Brandon and Trey have a really great relationship. But I'm really happy for Brandon. I'm really happy for Trey. The kid put on a freaking show. And you know, for me, it's hard not to root for Trey McKinney because of all the things that he brings to the table.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it's America's experiment gone bad. Hear me out. Literally before we recorded. Mm-hmm. I mean, moment of honesty. I just released a podcast with Trey McKinney last night. We're recording this the Thursday a week ago. So he had been on my mind, and I'm just like, it's such an experiment. Like, I get that there's some hate towards him, but it's so weird. What I mean by America's experiment gone bad. I was literally watching videos of him right before we recorded, fishing with Dan Moorhead and fishing with Andy Morgan when he was 12 years old. Hosting, I think it was a made for web series or whatever that called the Training the Next Generation or whatever, Molding the Next Generation. Dude, the kid literally sits there and asks question after question, like what color jig, what did it, you know, to the best anglers in the world. And he's just like you would imagine Trey McKinney to be, but with braces. And you watch this.
And Kool-Aid on his lips.
Yeah, and you watch this, and I'm sure most people saw that and they were like, oh, this is so cool. This is a kid who has a dream of being a pro angler. And because he's got parents that are willing to work really hard around him, which every parent, you're living proof of, is willing to do. You'll do everything for your kids, not make it easy on them, but you'll do everything, give them every opportunity.
Support.
Yeah.
Support.
So he's lucky. I mean, he's got parents that, number one, he's lucky in life just for having parents that way. But I watched that and I'm like, well, of course he's as good as he is, because this is when they started the weird science project of building this kid into the perfect pro angler, because that's what he wants to be. And everybody loved it. But somewhere along the way, like watching that show, if somebody had said to you watching that show 8 years ago that when this kid's 20, he'll be a 2-time Elite Series champion, he'll have almost won the Bassmaster Classic, he'll have almost won Angler of the Year if it wasn't for a screw up. And he's in a two-way tie for Angler of the Year going down to the final event, no matter what way it works out. And he's the reigning Rookie of the Year, the youngest ever to qualify, the youngest to ever win an elite, the youngest to ever win Rookie of the Year, and potentially the youngest to ever win Angler of the Year. If you'd have told somebody watching that freaking show, they would have been like, I can't wait to cheer for this kid. But somewhere along the way, am I wrong? Like, it's weird when you think I know I started on a rant, but it's wild.
I think it's the asterisks that everyone wants to put an asterisk on his name, like he's on steroids or something. He's playing baseball. It's like, again, this is this dead horse has just got to be tired of getting beat over and over and over again. But the fact of the matter is, I like Trey. Trey has grown on me a lot, and I'm starting to read more and more. I read through some of the comments, or actually all the comments on the podcast you did with him yesterday, and there are more and more people jumping on board with him because I think they're finally starting to realize that he's no joke. And he's not. He is no joke. Neither are any of these other young guys. And to criticize them for using a piece of equipment that has literally transcended the game into understanding all the things that he talked about on your podcast. I'm going to say this past week because of this
gets
podcast
confusing.
It's going to air. Yeah. So the things that he said, like how he determines what a fish's mood is in, how he's going to present a bait across, a grass line where a fish that he knows went into hiding in taller grass. He circles around. He presents one bait from one direction, another. These are all things that are brilliant. They're old school strategies that are applied to new school technology, and he's using it to the very best of his ability. And he's proving to everyone that no one understands it better than he does. And he can go catch them other ways. People keep denying him that presentation to be a well-rounded bass fisherman or an angler, and even a human being. The kid he's a good kid. He's always polite. He doesn't curse. He listens to music. He stays positive. After all the people that have beaten him up on social media and drug him through the freaking gauntlet and fire pit and nail pit and everything else, he remains a guy with a smile on his face. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for him for the way he's handled this whole thing. I really do. I defended him yesterday on social media, and we're not going to get into that, but I'm going to continue. Because I
you
can't
went to
say
war with a bot.
Because I do curse. And I swear, and I'll start doing that right now on this show if we have to. I just think the kid, I really like him. And as a parent, I understand the support. He's 20. Last year, he was 19. People make fun of him because his mother is at all these events, and she shows a tremendous amount of support. My oldest child, Aspen, is 13. 7 years from now, you think I'm going to stop supporting her and the things that she does?
Yet
I'll be there at
nobody says anything about Patrick Walter's parents who are at every event. Nobody says anything about John Cruz's parents. His dad is at every event, and Judy.
Peyton Manning's dad was at every.
Oh wow, we're going football. We went straight, but it is wild how it's skewed differently. And dude, let's play devil's advocate. I do not believe this. I believe that Trey McKinney is a skilled angler in many ways. I've watched him. It's kind of my job
100%.
to watch pro anglers. I may suck, but I'm pretty good at assessing what I see. And the kid can freaking fish. But let's say he can't. Let's say that he is a forward-facing sonar trick pony that people want to make you believe. He's freaking incredible at it.
One of the best in the world.
You're watching. I mean, he proved it. And again, what floats around about him is, hey, his career is bought and paid for, which is so crazy because we're also going to get well, you're saying that because you work for Bass. No, I'm saying that because you're watching a kid that I honestly believe in 5 years will have a ton of fans and everybody will deny ever hating him.
Let's take it away from Bass. Yeah, exactly.
Because he's just going to keep winning them. There's a bunch that have come in this industry that went through the same thing. It's kind of gross.
Or go to the other brand. Look what Wheeler's doing over at MLF. Yeah. I mean, he's freaking crushing it. And
that's who I was talking about, but I wasn't going to mention it because I didn't want to suck him in. Like, it's just so you're feeding the trolls. Like, but again, my head's all over the place. But what I was thinking too on the his mother buys him stuff, and dude, he did this in front of everybody. Like, literally, there was no secrets on Lake St Clair. What he did was catch the most weight ever, become the youngest 2-time Elite Series champion, and he did it right in front of everybody. And he didn't just do it one day. He did it if he had insane weights the first few days and just kind of stick handled, he caught, for all intents and purposes, Trey McKinney could still be out there catching 23 pounds a day. I mean,
right on the exact waypoint, he caught 96 pounds in 4 days. That is insane. I mean, if you have never been on Lake St Clair and fished like in a tournament, or at least I've never fished there, never even casted one single lure, but I've been on Lake St Clair many, many, many times with some of the best bass anglers in the world, with front-facing sonar and without front-facing sonar. And to me, what they have figured out, no one talks about. Like when I was with Jason Christie, was it last year on day one on St. Clair? 2 years ago. 2 years ago. He was throwing a huge tube jig. And what he figured out was he was bomb casting this huge tube jig and he was bouncing it over the grass. Okay. That was his way of revealing fish that were hiding in the grass. And he didn't necessarily catch anything. Maybe one or two on that big jig, on that big tube jig, but he revealed fish and then he marked where they were. And then he went after him with a drop shot and a long leader, all that stuff. So it's like you figure the system out, and what some of these guys have done, like, I mean, Brandon Palaniuk, he went and caught that big one up river on the last day, but he was doing it too. To be able to come back out there the next morning after you catch 23 pounds of smallmouth, you go back out to that same waypoint where you're going to start again, and you have to find the school of fish that have moved on you, first of all. Then you have to identify the fish that are aggressive. You have to identify the fish that are bigger than all the rest of them. And what Trey McKinney said in your podcast is spot on. He is hunting, and you're a predator in a boat, and you're looking for the largest, most efficient way to catch the largest fish in that system. And the fact that he did that in Arbor Bay with all those other boats around him, both local guides, local fishermen, tournament anglers, 50 or 60, probably 70% of the field were out there. And for him to have done that 4 days in a row is absolutely phenomenal, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And two things. It's Anchor Bay, number one. Number two.
I'm sorry. What did I call it? Arbor Bay?
Yeah.
I was thinking of Ann Arbor.
It's fine. That's two mistakes. 3 strikes, you're out. And the other part is, if you don't like the hunting element, if you don't like the fact that somebody can see a fish, I get it. There's parts of it that I hate. I've spent a lot of time on Bass Live kind of ridiculing, like, should we put a cast counter in? Because it's ridiculous watching somebody not cast. Right. But I also have respect for what they're doing. No different than I have respect for watching Greg Hackney pick apart a cypress tree with a jig. I mean, exactly. It's incredible what they're doing. And it's a lot of it's marketing, dude. Brandon Palaniuk, He won a tournament earlier this year in forward-facing sonar, but you could see the shore, and it was Brandon Palaniuk, so the industry thought it was cute. You know, it was okay. Jason Christie has won multiple tournaments using forward-facing sonar, and one of them he gets a credit for winning it old school. I mean, you were in the boat with him. He's forward-facing sonar first thing in the morning. So again, this isn't a forward-facing sonar thing because there's part of me that wishes it would just disappear, but it's here now. And just because
the elephant in the room,
just because there's elements I dislike about something doesn't mean I can't respect the people that are doing incredible things with it. Because here's the truth. Everyone's got it.
Everyone.
They've all had time with it now. They've left sponsorships. They've gained they've added giant screens. They've figured it out. There's people who are clearly better at it. Self-admittedly by the others. No different than there's people that are clearly better at throwing a jig. So, anyways.
And they keep getting better. They keep getting better at it.
It's freaking fireworks.
Every time I go out in a boat and whoever angler I'm with is using front-facing sonar, they're learning something new every day, even the best of them. And let's just narrow it down to, the younger generation of anglers. They're learning something new every day, like how a fish acts. I mean, Easton Fothergill, being in the boat with him for 2 days was a tremendous experience for me. What a great kid he is. He is tremendous. And the things that he taught me, I already knew some of these things by observation and the years I've been in boats with anglers using it. But one of the most important things that people are missing are how they read the fish and understand the cast, the cadence. Who knew, even out there on Champlain, when that pelagic bite was really becoming a featured environment and a featured event for front-facing sonar. They were casting past the fish and reeling through the school, just like you would drag a planer board and a crankbait through a school of walleyes, knowing what depth they are. That's how they were fishing for them now. And I saw Taku do this and Kyoya. They're so specific on their casts that now all of a sudden no, you have to be a pinpoint caster. And again, they're looking down at their screen and they literally backflip a drop shot, a Nico, whatever it is they're baiting with. They literally backcast it 17 feet to the fish and drop it on their head. And all of a sudden that comes into play because they've made the right cast. Then all of a sudden they have to read the fish, how the fish reacts to that bait on that particular cast. They twitch it. The twitch becomes a reaction. And sometimes most of the time the reaction is the fish sees what they're doing and they turn around and go back to where they came from, or go down or up or wherever and disappear. And if they get a positive reaction, sometimes they get a follow, and then it becomes the cadence. Whatever cadence, does everyone understand what the cadence is? How they twitch their bait back to the boat, right? And if that doesn't work, they have to bend over, grab another rod with a different bait on it, and try it again. Yeah, but if 5 baits don't work, they have to circle around and come from a different angle. Like it's way more complicated than people give it credit for.
Yeah, but the truth is, if you're not willing to accept that is technical, if you're not willing to accept that that's the way you like to fish, okay, you're never going to agree. Like there's scopers listening to you right now going, you're right. It is that all of these things come in. Like, dude, the nuances, like the fact that Kyoya tells you where to stand in this friggin' boat. I know why. I've hosted. Go ahead. Yeah, but I've hosted a television show I've made a living fishing my whole life. I am not Kyoya Fujita, clearly, because it would take me years to figure out maybe I should tell the camera guy to move around in my boat. You know what I mean? To get that subtle.
Exactly.
Unless you're going to tell me it's all wrong and you know why, and it's because he's got a squeaky compartment and that's why he's been moving you this whole time. We way overthunk it.
No, I think it's because it's the bottom.
Yeah,
because people have figured out the big fish hide on the bottom, especially smallmouth. When they see the boat coming, they just go right to the bottom. And if they're in grass or rocks, they can't see them. So especially if the boat is tilted, which obviously dictates the angle of the transducer. And I think that's the whole reason why he wants me to stand, or whoever the camera guy is, right behind the passenger seat, especially on calm days. And then he can read the bottom better, because that's where he's looking for bigger fish.
Avco not only makes incredible outdoor clothing, but they care about anglers with their 10% pledge. Avco and the Shed family donate at least 10% of the company's profits to conservation and making fishing better. Now back to the show.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like, there's so many subtle nuances to it. But bottom line, to end our whole conversation that started with Trey McKinney and it went into, we haven't even talked about the anglers we were planning on talking about. But I mean, bottom line, none of that stuff, whether you like forward facing stone or you don't like it, whether you accept that there's talents and skills to it, doesn't matter. That's a personal choice. But ain't none of that got to do with Trey McKinney, Kyoya Fujita, Easton Fothergill, or anybody that you would look at, Paul Marks,
any of those guys,
Tucker,
dude.
Any of them, anybody you would put in that group. It ain't their fault. You're literally going out in the road and yelling at somebody because you think they're driving too fast, but they're within the speed limit. I mean, is that an insane analogy?
They're using their rear camera to back into a parking spot now, when we didn't have to do that 30 years ago.
Yeah.
You know?
And again,
or you're using your GPS map that's in your car that you've logged an address into, and we didn't do that 30 years ago. We had to read a map.
Yeah. I got to this house the old-fashioned way. I didn't use a GPS. I took out the map and got here the old-fashioned way. No. And again, if you want to use maps, that's cool. If you don't want to use forward-facing sonar, that's totally cool. That's always how fishing's been. Let's move on.
Let's do.
I have a giant zit that's bothering me, Jake. I'm playing injured. Man. I have really big zit. Like, I'm 51.
Here, come up here.
That's nasty. Oh, that's nasty.
Hey, that would go viral on social media.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
Yeah, that'd be pimple popper shows. No, thank you. But it could be on there. Trust me. I'm happy that
if you
the
squeezed
technology
it and it popped and it hit the camera lens, that would be,
come on, Jake.
That would absolutely go viral.
Oh God, nobody's watching anymore.
Oh my God, I would make so much fun of you.
All right.
It was good to see your family at the event.
Yeah, they loved seeing you.
They are always so happy. The first day I saw them.
You should stick around while hungry.
Yeah, I don't live with you, but every time I see them, they're happy.
Oh, they always are. Yeah, because I'll beat them if they're not. Go around and parade like show ponies. No, they're great kids. It was awesome having them there. Exhausting though. Like after Saturday, I mean, I went out to that party with Travis Pastrana, which was, dude, I never wanted to stay somewhere longer in my life. I mean, I don't know. I was like, these idiots out here partying. And then I got there and I'm like, they're not all idiots. It was just an incredible, 3 people invited me. So I jump in the water, and rather than walrus my ass up back into the boat, which there's thousands of boats around me, it wouldn't have looked pretty. So I'm like, I'm smart. I'm like, I'm just going to go on the back of one of these big boats because they all have ladders. So I'm walking towards one set of big boats, but I have to walk past this black boat. And the guy looks down at me. He's like, you okay? You need a beer? And I'm like, no, I'm good. Then I go to there's 2 boats that are rafted together right here because it's just getting started when we showed up there. And I'm approaching the other guy, and the guy's like, "What do you need?" And I said, "Can I use your ladder?" And he's like, "Sure." And as I'm on my way up the ladder, he goes, "Do you want a beer?" And I'm like, "No, I'm good." And while I'm getting on the guy's deck, the guy rafted to him, is like, "Is he okay? Does he need a beer?" I mean, it was just a very welcoming environment, is what I'm saying. So then we went and played Topgolf that night. So
with Travis.
No, with my kids. With my kids. I wouldn't have gone if Travis asked. But my kids made me feel like I should be a good dad and go. And I'm glad we did. It was fun.
Well, I hate to go there, but that whole, we didn't go there on Saturday, the day that the raft was the organized raft was supposed to be, the publicized raft was, I guess, bigger than normal days. But we did go by it on Sunday coming back downstream, and I was like, you know what, this is like tailgating at an SEC football game, particularly in Knoxville on the Tennessee River, where all the Vol Navy
shows up. Does it go that
up.
far though? But like, dude, that was several miles of boats.
It's just not that big, but there are hundreds and hundreds of boats that show up. Yeah,
God, I want to do that one day.
That entire wall, all the way down to the other ramp under the bridge, all the way to Thompson Bowling Arena in Knoxville, is full of boats. It's pretty cool.
Oh, I want to do that. Yeah, so it was incredible. But it was great having my family there. Let's get to some fishing stuff because people are frustrated of all our. I mean, we're a half hour into this podcast and we haven't.
They've
talked
already
about
logged out. Yeah, they're talking about Trey again.
But day one, a guy that everybody loves to talk about, another guy that uses forward-facing sonar, but does it in a cute way. He's always laughing, and people love him. Takumi Ito.
That picture was when the Taku phenomenon really started. That was on St. Clair in 2020. And I think he came in third or fourth. And that was when he caught the eel, unagi. In Japanese, eel is unagi. And the thing, the lamprey eel came off the fish and fell in the sea. And he was going, "Ooh, what is? And then when I said, "It's unagi," he goes, "Oh, can you eat?" That's what, to me, that was the beginning of the Taku phenomenon. And the guy has just evolved so well. And I always enjoy getting in his boat because I know we're going to go have a good time. And I know if it's in smallmouth country, he's going to catch them.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a great angler and a great marketer, a great human being, a great dad. It was good seeing his family there. They're going to be in La Crosse as well. So no, it's Takumi is a gift to our sport, man. He is
absolutely,
for everything he deals with that's negative. He's not from where we do weigh-ins. He is not. English is his second language. Like you imagine trying, I don't care who you take whatever pro you want, take Kevin Van Dam and put him in Japan. It's not going to be as smooth as Takumi. And I mean, Kevin Van Dam in Japan would be badass, I imagine, though, because he's Kevin Van Dam. But I'm just saying, like, you take Kevin Van Dam is international language. I mean, you don't need to speak anything to KVD.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying. So yeah, no, Takumi's great. Give us some nuggets. You've been getting light on the nuggets, been giving us a lot of fluff the last few episodes. I'm holding you to the point. Give us some goods.
So he's definitely using new baits, lots of prototypes, boxes full of them. And for me to describe what he was using, all I can tell you is, some of them look like centipedes. Some of them look like bugs. Like he's just got this Taku belt full of tools that he uses, and he's constantly experimenting with different types of bait.
What do you? Does he actually have a belt?
No,
it's just an analogy.
It's under the hood. It's under the hood. Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Would have been awesome if he just had like a little box. It's like A Japanese fanny pack goes
Like a
all the way
bat belt.
around.
Yeah,
I could see him wearing it.
Actually, I could too. That's a good idea.
Watch, he's going to have them next year at ICAST. I think idea.
He used to wear that life preserver that went around his waist. Do you remember that? I think that, yeah. But anyway, he's constantly experimenting, even in the tournament, because at the end of the day, a tournament like that, they got to figure out A, what triggers a fish, B, what the cadence should be, and C, or that should probably be reversed. B, once they find the fish that they're going to target, they got to figure out what bait they're going to throw at it. And I just think, now they leave a little slack on their baits, and they, instead of, putting the hook back on the hook holder and wrapping the line and putting it back down on the deck in line, they're all like, they fan their rods out on the front of the boat, so that if it's rough or wavy, the baits and lines aren't getting twisted up, and it's just an efficient part of the involvement that they've discovered in how to be as efficient and timely as possible, so that if one bait doesn't work, they can reach down and grab another one. And I don't know much about
who is they, Jake.
Front-facing sonar users.
Okay. Sorry. Just wanted to make sure you weren't grouping anybody.
Them.
Okay. Those
but
foofs.
Yeah, foofs. The foofs. The foofs. Their cable is their umbilical cord.
God, you're just giving too much material to people right now. They fan out the rods.
They fan out their rods so that they can be more efficient, so they can keep baits in the water longer. And that's the name of the game now. They're finding a fish. Takumi's really good at it. He draws up a fish or reveals a fish that he knows is 3 to 5 pounds, and he goes after that fish. And that's the thing that they're all doing now is chasing these fish down. I mean, sometimes if you were to hit a waypoint on the moment Taku or Trey or Easton or any of them, locate Brandon Palaniuk, locate a fish that they want to target, they might actually follow that fish for a half a mile and cast at it, 10 or 12 or 15 or 100 times before they finally trick the fish into eating their bait. It's a process, and every fish is different. And it's so interesting. It's such a different perspective, particularly with someone like Taku. They all do it differently. Taku is different than Killia. Killia and Easton so far are the two people that I find to have the closest similarities and parallels in how they fish. Yeah.
Gosh, that's a compliment and a half to both of them. Like
both
literally a double-sided like if you said to Kyoya, you just got it compared to Easton, he'd probably be like, and vice versa. Like that's a compliment and a half to both of them.
They do it the same way. Not everything, but for the most part, they fish. I told Easton that actually after the tournament was over in a text message, that he reminds me, he asked me, and here's how clued in Easton is. He knew, he was smart enough to just ask me, because I've been in the boat. I'm not a pro angler at all. I'm just a camera guy. That's all I am. But he knew that I've been in the boat with some of the best in the world for many, many years. And he asked me, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? He asked me these questions, and I thought, A, I was honored that he would ask me that, but B, I was also intrigued by the fact that he was inquisitive enough to ask those kinds of questions, because it's probably difficult to go up to another angler and go, "Hey man, what are you doing?" How do you do this? Maybe they share information, the little groups of anglers that room together, whatever, they share information, but to go up to someone that you don't know, that's older or younger or whatever it might be, that it intimidates you in asking those questions. It's easier for me to ask the UPS driver where the big deer are than it is to go around asking all the farmers, if that makes sense, right?
I guess. I mean, it's a stretch. No, but here's what I will tell you about Easton. He's a freaking sponge from everything I've seen. Like, he is actively learning at every moment. Like, you watch how he watches live footage when you have him on set. He is just...
He absorbs it all.
He absorbs, and he is always, like... I think that also, like, you hear him communicating with a lot of the younger anglers, and I think that's also a trait that's coming from college. I mean, dude, when you go fish the opens, nobody helps you. Maybe you get a buddy or two that'll kind of sometimes tell you the truth, but they're going to lie to you a lot. But in college fishing, the sharing that's where it all started. And that's why so many younger anglers are not, I mean, there's older anglers that share, but there's so many younger anglers that are sharing and maybe doing it more effectively. Because guess what? It was a learned trait over 4 years in college.
Listen to what Trey said on your podcast. He wasn't hiding anything. He was literally, I was engaged in that podcast when I listened to it, because he was literally teaching you what he's doing. And the fact that even if he tells you what he's doing, it makes you, a bit more of a microscopic analyst to that technique, if you're into that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you can go out there and do it just because he told you that, and he knows that. I mean, there's nothing to hide, because there's something intuitive. I again,
but they are good
baits,
at hiding. The young anglers are very good at hiding crap. Like,
I think they're hiding it for reasons that they might exist somewhat, but at the end of the day, the old adage goes back to, I don't even know who coined it, but I remember maybe, hearing it on the In Fisherman. You can give a guy the same boat, the same rod, the same bait, the waypoints, whatever, the same exact location, after you caught, 10 bass on a spot or 50 crappie or whatever it is you're fishing for, and that person can go out to that same exact spot and might not get a bite. And I still believe that to be true. So these guys, they're hiding their baits. There's part of us that all understands why that's old school. I mean, I remember being a kid, my dad hiding his baits when we come back to the boat ramp because nosy people are walking around.
Yeah, but it's also not in pro fishing. They show that. I mean, that's a sale. Like, Palaniuk showed a bait on Sunday, and I forget who it might have been Zona. Yeah, it was Zona. I think it was on live, and he's like, "Whoa, did we just see
a 5-inch mag draft
anglers show a bait?" Because that used to be the norm, and that definitely isn't the norm anymore.
Right.
But it's good times with Takumi. So we kind of got into Easton a little bit. You got anything more on him?
Easton, he's very cerebral. And one of the really interesting things, and this is a transcendence of an angler that continues to leave his mark in the pro bass fishing world. Almost all of these younger guys that I talk to, I always ask them, who was your biggest influence? And almost all of them say Aaron Martens. And I asked Easton, I go, what is it about Aaron Martens that, like, did he just open the door for all of you guys to come learn from him? And he goes, oh, I never met him. I just think the way he fished and the way he thought was intriguing. That was the person that I followed. And, we all know that to be true. But I just thought, with his relationship with some of the younger guys, like especially Tucker Smith, knowing that background, I thought he was just made himself available to all these young guys. But he is literally continuing. He continues to influence young minds.
Yeah.
Deep into his into the future of Bass and Aaron Martin's past.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting.
Well, I think it makes sense in a lot of ways. I mean, number one, he was one of the most incredible. I mean, Ken Duke, I think, called him the natural when he first showed up, which is a great nickname because he was as natural. The way he thought, the way he saw things was different than anybody. But I think sadly, because Aaron passed, he's become kind of a mythical character, and that will continue on for years and years. But I think it's also timing, dude. Like if you look at the age of Easton, when Easton was watching the Elite Series on the way up, it's when Aaron was winning his Angler of the Year titles, when he was a little kid. I mean, even Kevin at that point, his mega dominance had petered off a little bit. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was still making classics, but Aaron was winning Angler of the Year in those years. So I think it makes sense. And he's Aaron. I mean, he's going to always, he's a special dude.
Well, that's what I see in Easton. I see, I'm going to say this and, kick me to the curb or throw me under the bus if you like. I know what you're going to say. I see Aaron Martin's mentality in the way he thinks in Easton, and I see Kevin Van Dam's efficiency in the boat in Easton. And so he's learned from those people. That's who he followed, and that's who he conditioned himself to become. And he's not as flamboyant. He's still very quiet and reserved and private. But, aside from all that, his fishing technique and his patience and the fact that he absorbs every second, he knows, again, we've said this before, probably based on what happened to him just a few years ago. He absorbs. I don't know that I've ever been around a young man or a young angler at this point in 15 years of being around Bassmaster that I've been around a kid that absorbs so much of everything, and he takes it all in, even the sunrises and the sunsets and, the experiences aside from catching fish or being successful or making a top 10 or bombing a tournament. He just absorbs the experiences. And I think that's huge in the big picture.
Yeah, he's a special dude, but you don't need to put the Kevin. I get where you're coming from, the Kevin and Aaron. Ain't nobody needs that smoke, Jake. I wouldn't put that on any young angler, but I see 100% where you're coming from. He's very good. He's very, very good. He's got a bright future. And I
feel comfortable. I always feel comfortable around Easton, Fothergill, and you can tell like I'm much older than he is. Obviously, I'm old enough to be his dad, and an old dad at that. And so some of the things that I say that he laughs at, or things that he says, reminds me that he's still a kid at heart, and his entire future is in front of him. And he's already accomplished so much. Yet, when he's quiet and he's doing his thing, you realize you're around a young man that thinks beyond and outside the box, and he thinks beyond just traditional thoughts about fishing. Wow. He takes it to a completely different level. And that's, to me, that's the that's the Aaron Martins in him. So anyway, I have nothing but great things to say about Easton. I enjoyed being in his boat. He's a tremendous angler. He literally just ran out of big fish, and he covered as much ground as he could. He kicked his trolling motor into a 10 spot and zigzagged across that flat as many times as anyone else did. I think sometimes, your intuition tells you to go left because of certain variables, and the big school of bigger smallmouth went right, and you can't ever explain why. It just happens that way, and you can't win every tournament. If you did, it wouldn't be what it is today. So, Easton's very tuned in to what he's doing. He's very, very good at it, and we all know he's got a humongous future in front of him.
Yeah. Great kid. So then the next day, you're with Palaniuk, who just snuck into the cut, but did exactly what you need to do in his position, and that's whittle away a few points. I think he earned 5 points that day.
I've run a Yamaha outboard for over 30 years. It has got me home safe each and every time. If you enjoy this podcast, remember, Yamaha supports it, and they care enough about you to make this ad read very short. Now back to the show.
And one of the things that we haven't talked about in this podcast, this segment, based on the youthfulness and all the new technology, is experience. And I think what happened with Brandon Palaniuk, his experience got him back into the top 10 after he kind of dropped out. I think on after day 2, he dropped out of the top 10. He jumped back into it on day 4. And when Easton got bumped out of the top 10, you could see, I always keep up, I watch weigh in, and keep up with the leaderboard just like everybody else does. And I could see that Brandon had moved his way back up, and all the rest of the top 10, like the top 9, maintained their top 10 status from day 3 to day 4. So there was only one camera guy that was going to get a new angler, and that was me, switching from Easton. Having been with him on day 2 and day 3, I was going to get back in the boat with Brandon Palaniuk on day 4, and we tried to figure it out. It's been at least 4 years since I've ridden with Palaniuk, and he and I have a long history going back to his sophomore season at Bass, when I used to get in his boat a lot, and we had developed a relationship, a friendship. I love his family, Tiffany and the girls. They're some of my favorite people on planet Earth because of his demeanor, his professionalism, all those things. Just a great human being. And so getting to the assignment to cover him, even though he was in 10th place on day 4, was a special situation for me because I got to get back in the boat with him. And I knew, every time I get in the boat with him, something happens, and he makes it. It's not luck. He makes it happen, which he did on Sunday. And he told me, so he fished out there on the flat in Anchor Bay, just like everyone else did. And when we got out there to his first waypoint, he said to me, my goal is to catch, 18, 19, 20 pounds here. And if we still have enough time, once I've got to that point, we're going to make a big run up the river, and I've got something special that I want to show you and your camera, because it's going to be something totally different than everything else in this entire tournament. So I'm sitting there waiting on him. He's like, got 17 and a half pounds, and he keeps catching, 3.5 pounders, and he's not upgrading. I'm looking at my watch going, man, I really want to go see this spot that he's talking about. And finally, at about 11:50 a.m., 10 minutes to noon, he's like, we're going to make a 35 or 40 mile run up the river. And I went, what? I thought it was too late already, because we got to be back by 3. So we take off. Basically, we took off at noon, and it was a ride, because all those boats were coming down the river, the yachts, the pontoons, the speedboats, the cigar boats. I mean, it was like literally running 35 miles up a washing machine waterway. And he was jumping waves, he's destroying his electronics on the front of his boat. And we finally get to this spot, Dave, and I'm like, holy crap. This place looked like we went from fishing a Great Lake flat to, it looked like a spot where you would go snook fishing in one of the canals in the Keys. It was so badass. The water was super clear. You could see 20 feet down to the bottom. There was a water, a little dam that was releasing a tremendous amount of water. So the current was coming out of this outflow, fighting the current coming down the river, which was fighting the wind that was coming from a different direction. And when he got to it, he got about, I would say, 100 yards, maybe a little further downstream from his main target location. He starts casting a mag draft, a 5-inch mag draft on a bait caster at smallmouth. So, his target, like he knows there's some giants in there. And for him to be doing that after all the finesse fishing that we had been watching for 3.5 days was phenomenal. So the first cast, he throws it in there. I'm still getting my camera ready, and I'm just hoping I've got a signal because we're so far off the beaten path up in Canada. And I look down, and there's like 4 of them, 4 huge smallmouth following his bait out. He's like screaming, going, "Oh my God, did you see that?" He makes like 3 more casts with it and hooks up and catches, I think it was a 4.5 or 4.25. So he actually upgraded, culled one of his fish, and he's fishing along the shoreline, and the waves are just crashing into the shore, but you can still see everything so clear. It was like rooster fishing in Cabo. And so he finally gets up to the current, the confluence of where all the current was literally just smashing together. And he goes around it and gets to where he can spot lock his boat and feel comfortable and safe. And all these things, here's where the experience comes into play with Palaniuk. He's thinking about things like, if I do hook up, I got to cast across the current because that fish is on that little point. There's a little rock shelf right there. That's my target. I know he's in there. She's in there. So he positions his boat thinking about all things. If I do hook up and I get a good hook set, I got to deal with this current. So I got to turn my boat around once I hook up, get away from these pylons, and there's 2 boats behind him watching. He tells them to move out of the way because he's going to have to swing back around. So he bomb casts across the current into the spot that he knew that fish was where that fish was located. And let me back up. He caught a 6.5 pounder in there during practice. That's the only fish he caught in there, but he saw those other ones because they revealed themselves. So he left it alone, and he had enough. He had the patience knowing that he wasn't going to go back to that spot unless he made it there on Sunday. And so he goes in, he bomb casts across the current. Boom, he hook sets and he's on his toes. And I mean, he leans back on that one and he's got this fish and he's trying to beat it. He's trying to keep up with his fish who's swimming through the current, circles his boat around. The fish, I mean, it looked like he had a 10-pound largemouth on, goes under the boat, comes up on the other side, jumps on the other side of the boat while Brandon's on this side. And I spin the camera around. I catch the fish going down. He looks like he's got a squid in his mouth. He's got a pearly white 5-inch mag draft on the side of his mouth. He comes back under the boat, and Brandon, the way he played the whole thing out was just experience, knowing how to deal with that current, how to deal with a fish of that magnitude, what to say on camera, because he's got my camera, which was live. He's got his camera crew, which is filming for his show. He just knows what to say. And it's, 15 years of professional bass fishing at this level that got him there. And that one fish made him quite a bit of money because he jumped from 10th to 5th place in the final standing. So
yeah,
thank you, Brandon. What a great experience. That was epic. The whole day revolved around that one move upstream, and it was one of the biggest highlights of my filming career at Bassmaster.
Yeah, and definitely going to be one of the highlights of the year, and definitely going to probably sell about 1.7 million different mag drafts. So that's a pro angler doing their freaking job.
Huge.
Palaniuk it's cool when you see that, because you look at somebody like Easton and they've got so much going for them, but clearly still has to invest a little time into like the putting on a show part of the job, which is hard to freaking do in his situation or in any young guy's situations, because the toughest thing when you show up in anything new is getting confidence. Well, it's hard to get confidence when the internet is what the internet is. So
right, yeah.
Stop being jackasses, people. Build up the next generation. No different than I tell the next generation to show respect to the veterans, the people that have built it. But Palaniuk has got all the pieces together. I mean, he is the perfect pro right now. So I would say a pretty good freaking tournament. And I know I give you a hard time since you've stopped bringing the juice. I think you brought the juice this time around, Jake.
Yes. Yes. Well, Taku
I'll
was.
pay you double for this episode.
Everybody's got the I call them octopus baits. Everybody's got those in their boat now. So the Japanese guys are moving on. They're letting those baits dangle on the boat. We can zoom in on them. They could care less about those anymore. And they're just moving on to new baits. And I am firmly Yui Aoki, the guy that won Kentucky Lake Open. Yeah. We follow each other on social media, and I keep up with him because I think he's a good dude, and I think he's gonna be in the elites for sure one day. And he puts out videos. He's one of the few Japanese guys that actually reveals the baits and the cadence and the action that these baits provide underwater with an underwater camera. And if you go look at his page, you'll see he's using baits that look like little humans. They look like little Gumby dammits. And his cadence, it's so weird because they go whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And you just look at these baits underwater and you go, no wonder the freaking fish bite those things. They just look like this weird little creature that needs to be eaten. They're so enticing. And I think the what's in front of us, the types of baits they're going to, get manufactured and put to market, it's an endless movement in the transcendence of soft plastic finesse baits. And they're coupling them, the anglers are coupling them with power finesse rigs. And I will tell you this, Easton Fothergill is the fastest spinnerbait retriever I've ever seen in my life. And I told him, he needs one of those old fly rods that you used to pull that had the wind up that you could pull the handle and go bzzz. You remember those?
You mean spinning rod?
But I'm saying
spinner bait.
He needs the spinning reel.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought. Yeah.
He needs I don't know the gear ratio in spinning reels at all. I've never even paid attention to that. But dude, that guy's like, and it's in, and I'm like, dude, you need Luz needs to make a reel for him that is an 811 spinning reel because he doesn't waste any time when he wants to get that bait in the boat. He's a freaking machine with that thing.
Well, Revo makes a rocket really fast retrieve. A lot of guys use that on forward facing sonar.
There you go. There you go.
It's a badass reel. It's red.
And if you couple
Chicks
that
dig
with
it.
Phoenix boats,
Yeah. BKK hooks, Yamaha
Yeah.
outboards,
Mhm.
checking all the boxes.
AFCO apparel.
Well, I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable in my AFCO. That's what I was saying. Now watch, I forgot someone and I'm screwed. Okay, real quick. Last question. We got the most epic angler of the year race going down tomorrow. It starts when this podcast comes out. You have Trey McKinney and the reigning and defending angler of the year, Chris Johnston, in a two-way tie. La Crosse, Wisconsin. What are you thinking? I'm not saying you have to pick somebody, but thoughts?
I was just about to say, I'm not picking, bro.
No. You can't do that.
I think that this is going to go down like the Brandon Lester, Brandon Palaniuk deal did, the AOY deal did on the Mississippi River the last time we were there. You remember that?
Yeah.
They were very close, and it's exciting to watch. You know, half the people are going to be rooting for Chris Johnston, and half the people are going to be rooting for Trey McKinney. And
some people will be rooting for neither.
Yeah, that's true too. Some people will be rooting for next year to start.
No, it's going to be. I mean, it's
who's in third and fourth right now.
Well, you got Kyoya, but I mean, they got 690 points, and Kyoya's got 650.
Oh, yeah.
It's 40 points. So they got to drop. Neither of them got to finish in the top 40, which, I mean, could happen. Could you imagine the unthinkable? I mean, but I can't.
The top two from last year,
that,
the top two from this year.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all the same people. Trey McKinney was in the mix. Chris Johnston obviously won it. Kyoya was right there. Jay Shakir was right there. Patrick Walters was right there.
Yeah.
That's your top five all over again. But it's going to be the most epic angler of the year battle ever. And Chris Johnston could become the fourth person ever to win him back to back. Obviously the first Canadian to do that. But if I just mention that, people get angry because I live in Canada. And I'm mentioning he's from Canada. But I also mentioned that Carl's from Australia and he's the first Australian, but it's not near as offensive. And then Trey McKinney obviously would be the youngest ever to do it. Either way, it's going to be like if Trey can take out Chris on that river where he finished second the last time, that is huge. But I could see a world where they both make the top 10.
I totally agree.
And it's like you imagine on Sunday. Oh, gosh.
And not to mention all the people that are fighting for classic bursts.
Oh, yeah.
And just to stay in the tournament. For all you viewers who aren't familiar with this, the intensity of the last event of the season, y'all need to watch it to the end because everybody is fishing for something. People are fishing for points. People are fishing for their careers. People are fishing to win the tournament. They're fishing for checks. They're fishing for AOYs. It is literally, in my opinion, the last tournament of the year is always the most intense because people are fishing so hard. And I've often said the last two tournaments of the year, you see people that have been on the bubble or the struggle bus throughout the entire year. And all of a sudden, with two events to go, they're fishing their asses off and they show up in the top 10. Paul Mueller, look what he did at St. Clair. And it's like, how do you lift yourself up and focus more at the end of the year than you have the entire year and do that for yourself? I don't understand how in baseball or football, when you're relying on, your skills against a ball and a pitcher is one thing, but when you're dealing with Mother Nature, I just think it's phenomenal that they can lift themselves up like that and just show up out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's incredible. And for some of them, it's the freedom of, like the most epic one probably ever was Chris Groh making a top 10 in his final Elite Series event. But in his situation, I think it was like almost a freedom where he's like, yeah, I don't have stress on me all of a sudden because I know I'm not requalifying. I'm just going to go fishing. And then that stress, it's tough what they deal with. This is the most exhilarating weigh-ins, but the toughest ones. Like there's going to be some veterans that step away because they're not requalifying. It's going to be tough to see, but
it always is.
Yeah, it's always tough. But it's
the part of the game. I mean, it's what they sign up for, and they all know that possibility, is a cloud over their heads if they start the year off badly and they continue to fall. They know no matter how long you've been doing it, that is a possibility, and that's part of your contract when you sign up for this level of bass fishing. You got to be consistent, man.
Yeah, and it's easy to say what people say on the internet or whatever, but these are guys, we celebrate people when they are achieving their dreams. These are guys who are saying goodbye to their dream, and it's tough. And I say to all the staff and everybody, I'm like, hey man, imagine how you'd work today if you knew every shot has to be in focus or you're literally going to lose your career. It's not easy what they go through. And I only say that to say that I have a lot of respect for them all. And every single person that's come through the Elite Series is an integral part of it, and you'll all be missed. And I thank you for your time. Well, this is an emotional roller coaster, Jake. I mean, we went off on a tangent to start. We're leaving it down, but it's been another incredible Jake's Take. I thank you for your time as always.
You're welcome. At least I didn't end the show being an idiot like I started the show.
Oh, God, you were so dumb at the beginning. I loved it. I wish we could replay it.
I take full responsibility for myself, and I was an idiot. That's okay. I'm going to make a comeback. I'm flying out tomorrow morning for the Leech Lake Open, and then I'm filming all 3
you're making
EQs.
It super confusing. You're making it super confusing.
Not tomorrow, yeah. Duh.
Guess what? Day one got canceled.
It did, yeah.
Breaking news.
I forget. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's so
Timeline's
confusing.
all jacked up.
Yeah, so he had fun at Leech Lake, and now he actually leaves tomorrow, or he leaves today. Thanks for watching.
I leave. Bye. So I did end being an idiot.
Success.
Great bookend.
Great stuff from Jake Latendresse and all of our guests. I thank you all. Jake, I got it right or wrong, though, because it just dawned on me that all of our features have intros, except for the longest running feature, which is Jake's Take. So we will right that wrong. I will get to work on an intro for you. Sorry. But thank you all for always bringing it. A big week here this week. Remember, everybody got pressure on them to re-qualify, to win Angler of the Year, to win Rookie of the Year, to qualify for the Classic. And it doesn't matter where you are in points, because if you win this week in La Crosse, Wisconsin, it is winning you're in. There's a Bassmaster Classic berth on the line. So even if you think your season is over, you can change it all with a victory here this week. I don't know who's going to win Angler of the Year. I know you guys probably have your thoughts. Let me know in the comments. Who do you think is going to pull it off? Who will be our Angler of the Year in 2025? I hope to see a bunch of you in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Make sure to tune into Mercer in the morning, 1 hour before Elite Series takeoff time. You can see it on Instagram, YouTube, all those things. It's kind of just, I walk around when everyone's half awake and I talk to them. And sometimes it's fun. Sometimes it's not, but sometimes that makes it even more fun. If you're in La Crosse, Wisconsin, make sure you say hello to me. Love to meet you fine humpers. And have a great week. Enjoy being. And until next time, Bob Cobb, take it away.
Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, because Bob Cobb of the Bassmasters told you to. You hear?